Hmm. Peace and blessings, beautiful people. Good evening, good night, good morning, good day to you. Good you, wherever you are, whatever you're doing, however you're showing up today. I got a story to share. I got a story to tell. But I'm gonna wait for those who are coming to the fireplace. Don't know it yet, but they're getting the notification. And oh my god, I gotta go for the fireplace chat. I forgot. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Thank you for being here. It's so good to be back. I don't think I've streamed live in a long time. And for those of you on LinkedIn, this is my first time on LinkedIn, so this is a new experience for me. I mean, really, it's not a new experience because it's the same thing. I'm just going out different audience. Some of the people on there the same. Anyway, I want to invite you to share your name, where you're watching, listening from. And I want to ask you, what is your story? What's in your wallet? What's your story? I am Ade Anifawushe, your transformational guide. I want to share stories and I want to talk about a place, a space where you can upgrade your story, the stories you've been telling that are not supporting you. You renew your stories, tell stories that support your mental and emotional well being, tell stories that help you navigate the BS in the world. And as you watch, listen today, you might actually find that you've been contributing to the BS that's going on in the world. ah. Hmm. Yeah, let's take a deep breath. Those of you who follow my Self Care Made Simple series, which is not over yet, not as far as I know anyway. I haven't gotten that memo yet from the divine. I'll say more a little bit about that. Let's take a deep breath together. All right, breathe in and breathe out. Let's take another deep breath in and breathe out. Now we're going to take another deep breath, a slower, longer breath. I'm going to invite you to breathe in and then hold it and then slowly breathe out. All right? And let's breathe in together slowly. Hold it. Slowly breathe out. Hmm. Something about taking a deep breath recenters us. It's easy to take that for granted because we're constantly being breathed. We're constantly taking in the deep breath. That it becomes a part of us. We're not even aware of it. That so much so we don't even, not always conscious of the benefit of being able to take a deep breath until we can't, until something takes our breath away, until circumstances are different. And we need someone to remind us, take a breath. I won't. I have a dear person in my life. I'm not going to put them out on Front Street, but I remember one time, it's been probably about a year ago now. I remember telling them, I said, take a deep breath. And they said, Yeah, I will. I will. Like, you will? No, you take a breath now. Now is the time to take that deep breath. Hmm. On my self care made simple series, I reference, well, I often say it's a pointer and a reminder, um, to remind us of our capital S self, our powerful self, our true self, our grateful self, and also to remind us of our creativity. And depending on where you are in consciousness, that can sound like maybe pie in the sky. I don't know. Maybe that just came to mind, but I don't know how. Or it may sound good when you think about it, like, yeah, my true self, my higher self, my divine self. But sometimes we struggle with aligning with those spiritual qualities on a heart level, embodying the spiritual qualities. Because when we align, like, for whatever reason, I have some ideas that we find it hard. But once we align, once we give ourselves permission to embody the spiritual qualities, we move through life differently. We can be in the midst of chaos and still be in touch with joy, or just remembering to breathe, or just remembering to be the presence, the representation of the divine in chaos. When we are in a relationship, we've cultivated a relationship with the true self, we are reminded that we are born for such a time as this. And that's why I titled this as Get Out Your Way. Get out of your own way. And speaking of getting out of my own way, or your own way, my aim is to be done in about 20 minutes. So let's see how that goes. Those of you who follow my Self-Care Made Simple series, you probably have noticed that you're not seen on a daily basis. And the reason for that is, as I shared in some of the videos, I told a longer story about self-care made simple. I told a longer story that was um, segmented, clipped, cut, spliced into 5 parts. So today, well, later tonight for me, it's going to be part 5. So if you're following it, yeah, this is the last part that I'm going to share tonight. And it's really about my story, my journey, my experience of real simple, my fear of rejection. So if you want to catch that, it's probably better if you go to YouTube if you're watching on a different platform, because on YouTube it will be in order, the right sequence. If you go to IG, especially, well, actually, if you're LinkedIn as well, you can get in the right order. It's good to get the backstory. And this came about for me. Let's see. I can't see the names. I got something. So if I don't acknowledge you, it's not because I don't want to. It's just hard to see you. My camera is behind something else. So I shared the story. It was inspired by my experience and by this gathering that I'm doing. So if you want to find out more right now, I don't know what's going on over here. I have an itch over here. I'm trying not to itch it, but it's like, it's telling me to itch. Go to the The business of being, BEING.com. The business of being, BEING.com. The business of being.com/events. You can find out more about the event that I'm doing next Saturday. And whether you show up there or not, I want you to remember this. If this is the only thing you remember out of today's conversation, I think, you will get so much out of this just by this one thing. And it's something that you've heard me say before if you're following me regularly, is you cannot have in the world what you are not willing to become. You cannot have in the world what you're not willing to become. Now, sometimes to think of the world, it's kind of big. The mind, we can't wrap our mind around it. Like, I don't care. I'm just going to take care of my own self. I'm going to take care of my own family. However, guess what? The same is true for you. You can't have in your own life what you're not willing to become. Just chew on that for a minute. What are you wanting in your life? What are you needing? What are you desiring? What are you praying for? What are you affirming for? What are you wanting to manifest? Whether it's starting a business, whether the business is not doing well and you want to find a way of bringing in more resources, income, and clients. You cannot have in your world what you're not willing to become. It's such a simple truth that's easily missed. And I want to slow this conversation down because there's so much that's bubbling up for me. We are in a time where there's chaos, where there's some things are happening and we don't even understand it. There's oppression, there's injustice, there's repression of truth, there's denial of history. There are political leaders who set one rule for the people they're governing, but one rule for themselves. There's a demonization of people expressing their truth, telling their story. There's a constant persecution of brown and black people. It's really all brown people, but that's a whole different conversation. I'm not black and brown. There is no black person, but anyway, I digress. We live in a society that is afraid of brown and black people and constantly doing things to hinder the forward movement of black and brown people. But guess what? Sometimes most times, the people who've been oppressed, the people who have suffered, they have a deeper access to love, to strength, to courage, to determination. So no matter what the powers that be or the pseudo powers that be are trying to do to hinder the success of black people or brown people, they're going to lose. What's that song? Something inside so strong. The higher you build the wall, the taller I would go, something like that. I can't remember the words, but there's something there that's kind of coming up for me. So going back to, you cannot have in your world what you're not willing to become. That is a universal thing. It's an individual thing. It's a collective truth. Far too often, we want to see in the world what we are not willing to become. And it's just not going to happen, because for you to see it and experience it in the world, you must become it. Because what you see with, what you're looking at, you're looking with. And it's all based on the stories. So I want to do two things, because I want to read something, but something is also telling me to double check something else to make sure that there is sound on YouTube. That's important. So let's see. All right. It's going to sound jacked up now because you're going to hear me. Okay, good. So there is sound on YouTube. I was just kind of feeling it. I want to read what I was saying, what you're looking at, you're looking with. And I want to read something that my friend and mentor wrote that I just think it's so powerful when it comes to the stories that we tell ourselves. And I'm going to tie it in together with you can't have in the world what you're not willing to become. So my mentor, spiritual midwife, Reverend Dr. Deborah L. Johnson, aka Rev D, said, "It is the story that we tell ourselves about what is going on that determines our experience of it. It is the story that we tell ourselves about what is going on that determines our experience of it." I could even just stop there. Well, not stop there, but just stay with it. The story that we tell ourselves about what is going on determines our experience of it. So, what we see in the world, things are happening. But our experience of what is happening is based on the story that we're telling ourselves. That might be hard for some people to take in. Some people might say, that's a load of whatever. Okay. See, how you see the world is based on the stories and what you believe to be true. Even what you say is true is a lie. But because you've heard it over and over and over and over, you accept it. And you accept it on an unconscious level. It is like internalized racism, internalized oppression. You can literally internalize homophobia. I've known gay people who are saying, I was homophobic. Not me, them saying that. Me, know the story of internalized racism, internalized oppression. Not wanting to be seen as a Nigerian when I moved back to UK. I want to be different because I bought into the narrative, the judgment, so much so that I kept my distance from Nigerians. It's just the way the mind works. You hear it not long enough, it becomes a way of being. So it is a story that we tell ourselves about what is going on that determines our experience of it. Our experience is not the facts of what has happened or is happening, but how we name it. Our experience is not the facts of what has happened or what is happening, but how we name it. Think about that for a minute. This truth is saying how you experience in your life is not the facts of what is happening or what happened. It's based on how you name it. Oh, Lord, I'm going to go here. I was not planning to go here, and that happens anyway, but I am going to say this, and I know some people are going to be pretty much offended, maybe. So this last few days, I think it was actually yesterday, or maybe before that, but let me go back. I watched a comedy clip of D.L. Hughley. And I'm not going to go into the whole joke itself, but one of the things he said was he remembered when he was a child and there was an experience. And I think he was in high school. And some store owner called him, no, we don't sell to niggers. And he thought they meant something else. He went with his friend. And the friend said, no, he's talking to you. He's calling you a nigger. He's calling you the N-word, however you want to phrase it. And DL went home angry. And he said, I think it was his mother or his father. I think it was his mother. And he told his mother what had happened. And the mother said, are you a nigger? He said, no. And the mother said, so why are you answering to that? Why are you bothered by something that you are not? And he said that was a big lesson for him. So a few days ago, I was just kind of, I find myself with that conversation, whether it's with an A or ER. It's like, if we, those who use the word, say we've taken back the power of it, then it has no power whoever says it. I know this is probably rubbing people up the wrong, the wrong way. Just take a deep breath. Ask yourself, what story are you telling yourself based on what you're hearing me say? Because one, if you've taken the power away from something, then it has no power over you. So I was reflecting on that, and I went to the grocery store right near my house, and there was a white guy in his BMW playing his rap music. I think it was 50 Cent, and of course, it was all loaded with the N word. And I was like, how do I feel about that? I was listening to him. I mean, he's just sitting there. It wasn't like he was making eye contact with me. And I started to feel like, you know what? If I believe I am that, then I'm going to respond differently. But I am not. And I know in the past where that word was triggering. But for me, it's like, if I'm not that, why is it triggering me? If someone is down the street yelling a zebra or zebra, depending on which country you're in, or a lion or a cat, lion or a dog, I'm not going to turn around because that's not me. But the reason those of us who get triggered, and hear me here now, I'm not talking about anybody can say whatever the flip they want to say. But truth is, people can say whatever the flip they want to say. And everybody will deal with the consequences of the story they tell themselves. But when you get triggered by something, maybe you called a name, maybe, someone did something that triggered you, you have to also look at the reason this is happening is based on the story that you believe about yourself, what you believe about what is happening. Because if you don't identify with it, you may actually have questions, and other people might ask you, why are you asking questions? You know what they mean. This statement, it is the story that we tell ourselves about what is going on that determines our experience of it. Our experience is not the facts of what has happened or is happening, but how we name it. I'm not saying we're not going to get triggered. I'm not saying you're not going to get mad, upset, but it is important to remember, if we're going to navigate this world where there's everything, they're racist, they're supremacist, they're people. And where there's people, some people are going to express an evil act. They're going to express something hateful. And sometimes we are the one doing it. And I say we, I'm talking about people. I'm not talking about brown people or black people. I'm talking about people. Sometimes we're the one doing it. There's more to what I'm reading. I'm going to read it here. Our story is a narrative. It is a mold of sorts. Our story is a narrative. It is a mold of sorts. No matter what is poured into it, the shape will always be the same. It might also be compared to a lens that colors what we see. That's Reverend Deborah L. Johnson, Rev D. So when you have a story, you've told yourself the story long enough, and you have a narrative now, and it becomes a mold for how you see the world. When you look at something, you're not really fully seeing what's in front of you. You're seeing through the lens of the narrative that you're keeping in your own mind. And that is why it's important to represent your story. In order to change what is happening in society, what is happening in relationship, romantic relationship, intimate relationship, in order to change the things that is causing people pain, that is oppressive, that is abusive, We have to change our stories. And if we wait for others to change their stories, it will not change. And if they change their story and we don't change, we won't know that they've changed because we're still looking through the same lens. We're still looking through the same lens and judging them and criticizing them. This is about self-responsibility. There is no spiritual bypassing in this way of being. Everything is connected. We are one. And we are one is not something, for me anyway, it's not a spiritual bypass. If you really believe that we are one and everything is connected, you gotta at least for a minute just say, whew, let me take a breath. That means you're connected to everyone and everything. Everything is connected. We are one. That means you're connected to everyone and everything. You are the one that you judged. You are the one that you judged, and you are the one that you praised. Or if that's kind of like, well, no, that's not true, I can't take that in. You become what you judge. You become what you praise. So when you do understand that you cannot have in the world what you're not willing to become, because of judgment, living from a place of fear and separation and believing in illusion, it's your MO, then you become that. If you believe in the greatness of humanity, if you believe in the power of yourself and others, if you believe in what is possible when we come together as a community, and that becomes your reason for being, whatever, however you're showing up in the world, like if I meet somebody, I'm going to look for the best in them. You create a different story. This gathering this coming Saturday, June 10th, it's more about that. It's about representing our stories. You can represent your stories, and you always represent your stories. Always. When you show up, your stories come with you. You may think you're not speaking it, but energetically, at least one person will pick it up. Someone would see it because everything is connected. So, if you're wanting to be in a romantic relationship, but you have a conversation, a narrative that men ain't shit, or women are whatever, you're going to attract that because that's the lens through which you're viewing the world. And it's sometimes when people hear you're going to attract that, there's a pushback. But the way the mind works, your mind is designed to, I want to say convince you, let me go with that, to convince you that you're always right. If you believe one thing and you don't see it in the world or you're not experiencing it, it brings about conflict. You're going to look for a way to have what you believe about yourself, about the world, about people, about a political party, about a race of people. You're going to look for the evidence. Because once you find the evidence, which is based on how you are projected, how you are seeing, the lens that you're looking out of, you say, there it is, I was right. And too many people are walking around trying to be right about their wrongness. So representing our stories, what's in a name, is an opportunity for us to come together and tell a different story, individually and collectively. Rev D, I heard Rev D say something today that we are creating a world that we haven't lived yet. But something in us knows that it's possible. A world where we affirm ourselves. Let's stop there. It's easy to affirm others. I've had several experiences, well, maybe two, where I've heard people feel almost disgusted about what they look like when they were younger, or what they sound like, or what they were wearing. This often happens with women, where they look back and go, "Oh my God, look at my hair, look at my body." And at that time, I thought I was fat. This blah, blah, blah. Because someone told women a story that you have to look a certain kind of way to be considered beautiful. Even if, as a woman, you don't believe that, but you hear the story long enough, it runs in the background. So if we can accept who we are, how we're showing up, how can we accept another person? We can say we do. We can say I love everybody, but you find it hard to love yourself. Yeah, maybe we love everybody until they show their true colors. So this session is really about coming together collectively to use our stories to elevate consciousness. It sounds simple, it sounds like it's not a big deal, and it is simple, but in order to become something that you want to see in the world, you're going to go through a process. It's going to be uncomfortable sometimes. It's going to be difficult sometimes. Too many people want to change. They want to experience change, but they don't want to be uncomfortable. A seed cannot change without dying. And it's dying that it gives birth to a new life. We have everything we need, and that's not just a spiritual bypass. That's truth. We have everything we need. I'm sure most of you watching this have received an email in the last week or two. Terms and conditions have been updated, and the services that you're using is now going up. Yeah, we've gone through a tough time. We've been through a lockdown, a pandemic. But it's a story that's been told that is now easier for companies just to raise the price, like due to the conditions and inflation. We have to increase what we're charging. By July, we're going to start charging whatever. How come, for most of us anyway, I haven't heard anybody say to me, because of the challenges of cost of living, their salary has gone up? We've been told a story that didn't just start a few months ago, it started years ago. Some of these stories that were told became, in America, they call it the Constitution. It's a story. People gathered together and came up with a story, and they were willing to represent that story. Whether it's oppressive or not, they don't care. It benefits them. Here in UK, there's this constant stories of making it difficult for people from other countries to come to this country, for refugees to come to this country. It's like, it's okay for us to go to your country and steal the things that your ancestors had, but you can't come back over here. I'll save that conversation for another time. But you cannot see in the world, you cannot have in the world what you're not willing to become. You cannot have in your world, in your reality, in your life, what you're not willing to become. And to become something different, to manifest, you must tell a different story. You can't manifest, you can't attract what you want, need, or desire, believing that you're unworthy. You can't manifest what you really want, need, or desire, believing that, you're wrong for not forgiving somebody. You don't have to be wrong for not forgiving. You're going to reap the benefit of not doing that. When we don't do the inner work, when we don't do the healing that we know to do, life itself becomes the teacher for you to recognize. Maybe it's time, because until we do the work, let me say that differently. If you want your gifts and you want to feel a sense of purpose or alignment, fulfillment, if you want, like, or maybe just, the common thing, relationship. You got to be willing to let all the stories of fear of rejection, don't know where you belong, allow those stories to come up. And you have to create the space, cultivate the space to be able to deal with the uncomfortability. Maybe tomorrow I might talk about part of my journey, even though, well, actually, I didn't share it in the story that I've been posted the last 4 days. But confronting the fear of rejection was painful, but I was ready. My heart was hurting from Sunday night, like 10 p.m., till like maybe 12 midday on a Monday. I literally was feeling the pain of recognizing that I have been carrying this story of being the, being afraid of being rejected. That people say, we don't like what you got. Whatever the case may be. I don't want to drag this on because I want to wrap this up. By facing it, it was painful. It was sad. I was angry. I was pissed. I wanted to figure out what I need to figure out right there and then so I could move beyond and do the things that I've always wanted to do. And that wise voice, the true self, is telling me this is all part of the process. And my heart started to feel different the more I relaxed and settled into it. Depending on where you are in consciousness, it may be different. For me, the work I've been doing brought me to that point. Even though when I was facing and I saw that this is true, that how could I have gone through the world, gone through my life being afraid of being, it's not even a valid question because I know I felt it. I know how sometimes I don't fully express myself because I'm afraid of being judged or being rejected or not being loved or feeling like he's weird. I was mad, but I was willing to stay in it. I needed to change my own story. I need to represent it. I need to represent another story. If you're willing to represent another story, if you're willing, you're ready and available, go to thebusinessofbeing.com/events. Thebusinessofbeing, BEING.com/events and register. It's 2 p.m. Eastern, 7 p.m. UK time. And everybody else, you just have to go to World Clock and figure out what time it is. If we want to end injustice in the world, if we want to end white supremacy, gender-based violence, we have to become that. We have to be the ending. And what is the ending? It is demonstrating love, being a place for love. And being a place for love sometimes is challenging. But it will be the most rewarding thing. Because either way, it's going to cost you. If you become the space for love, the cost is you're liberated, you're more powerful, more courageous. If you say, I don't got it, I am not the one, I don't have it, I can't do it, the cost is pain, suffering, feeling helpless, insecure. It's not a curse. It's just science. Cause and effect. We have a choice. So, representing our stories. What's in the name? June 10th, 2023, 2 p.m. Eastern. For those in America, 7 p.m. UK. For those in UK, go to thebusinessofbeing.com/events. Thank you for being here. Thank you for joining me. Those of you on IG, I can't see you very well because I look kind of weird. I got something blocking the bottom part. Anyway, I love you. I bless you. I appreciate you. And I thank God for you. I am going to post the last part five of my story about the fear of rejection. I think I'll talk more about that tomorrow. The process of confronting your story, releasing your story, and still feeling some of the things you were feeling before you shared the story. It will make sense. My next broadcast. Take a deep breath. And remember that life is good. It is getting better. Peace and blessings.